Chinese officials are leading a concerted effort to increase their influence at the United Nations and change the rules of international diplomacy. One America's Kristian Rouz has a report.
U.S. diplomats are warning of rising attempts by mainland China to advance its influence at the United Nations. According to reports Sunday, U.S. envoys to the UN say Beijing is trying to partner with other abusive regimes to defend its poor record on human rights and advance its malicious agenda in global political and trading affairs. This comes as the UN recently elected a Chinese envoy to lead its Food and Agriculture Organization, which means the Chinese will now control 4 out of 15 UN agencies. Meanwhile, the US does not control any of those panels.
Our collective ambition for realizing the 2030 agenda hinges on how we manage the evolving risks and challenges, and whether we see the social, economic, and environmental opportunities before us.
US officials say China may be attempting to erode the UN's role in protecting human rights worldwide. Over the past few months, Beijing has faced accusations of putting its religious minorities and political dissidents in re-education labor camps, and the mounting evidence of that brought about a possibility of UN sanctions against China. But last week, the UN Human Rights Council adopted a Chinese proposed resolution on human rights.
China calls on all parties to work with China to support multilateralism, demonstrate the spirit of cooperation, and translate the commitment to supporting development and promoting human rights into practical action.
US diplomats say China is trying to challenge the rules-based international order to gain diplomatic advantage at the UN. And many countries, specifically in Asia and Africa, are inclined to support China's efforts at the UN due to their excessive borrowing from Beijing, including through the lending facility known as the Belt and Roads. Experts say this could help China isolate Taiwan and assert its position in the South China Sea, both of which contradict US interests in East Asia.
The Vienna Declaration guarantees democracy and human rights, yet in Hong Kong today these are under serious attack. China is preventing our democracy at all costs.
Diplomats also say, unlike Western nations, China does not recognize the independence of its UN envoys and expects its diplomats to channel Beijing's political agenda. In this light, the US is pushing for a reform of the United Nations to make it more inclusive, which, for example, could allow Taiwan to defend its independence through international diplomacy.
Thanks in large part to U.S. leadership, UN member states have given the Secretary General the green light to reform and restructure the UN's peace and security architecture, management processes, and the development system.
Beijing's push to gain control over UN agencies could, however, meet a solid international pushback, as the majority of UN members still agree China must end its political and religious repressions. Kristian, Rouz, One America News.
Want to see more videos like this? Click on the link below and subscribe to One America News on YouTube, and call your cable provider and kindly demand that One America News is added to your lineup. Call and subscribe today.